everyone! So I wanted to do a little blog today to talk about housing first and why it's so important to homelessness in the UK. Now, housing first, if you haven't heard of it already, is a new approach to homelessness, and it turns the original way of dealing with homelessness totally on its head. How we respond to homelessness traditionally in the UK is we work on something called a continuum of care model. Now, continuum of care is like a little bit like a staircase model, and it basically means that a person has to jump through so many hoops before they are considered housing ready and able to access permanent accommodation. So this might include they need to connect with a day centre, they need to reduce their alcohol or drug intake to be able to get into a hostel. They may have to spend so much time in a hostel before they're able to get onto supported housing. And so there's lots of different bits of criteria that's got to be met all the way through as you progress to the eventual goal of obtaining housing and hopefully a permanent tenancy. So for me, when I first came into this marketplace back in 2012, I knew nothing about housing first, but I did know a lot about continuum of care because I'd worked in the local authorities myself, and I'd worked within that model, and I'd utilised that model on lots of occasions for the people that I'd supported through that role. So I didn't know anything about housing first, but I did know my own moral compass and common sense inside me that made me think, it's not really, how feasible is it that whilst a person is sleeping on the streets, they're going to be able to meet all of these different criterias and ultimately, and not put a foot wrong before they're able to get into the door of a house. So I thought, surely if we give them housing, that's going to solve a lot of the problems. And when I discovered onto the work of Dr. Sam Tsamberis, who is the doctor who researched housing first and brought it to the marketplace in a really big fashion by the Pathways to Housing project in America. And when I learned about the Housing First projects they'd done there, it totally struck a chord with me, and I thought, this is the answer to homelessness. And as I did research, I found that we can see across developed nations that housing first is the most effective way to ending homelessness, period. There is no other effective way that is not going to be enabling homelessness. So if we respond to homelessness with a continuum of care model, we're just enabling it. We're just letting people go through these milestones and then back to the beginning. A couple of milestones, back to the beginning. It's costly, it's ineffective, and it's inhumane, quite frankly, to keep expecting people to jump through these hoops in order to access accommodation, which is usually the root cause of a lot of the problems that they're experiencing. So Housing First is so successful now that it has been passed as law in California very recently, that any response towards homelessness in the future has to be deployed with a Housing First led strategy. And California know that it is so costly to keep responding to homelessness with a continuum of care model that they have now created a law to make it so that you are unable to do that. So we have to take lead from our colleagues internationally if we are to have any chance of ending homelessness in the United Kingdom. And this is something I'm so passionate about, and I'm working so hard behind the scenes to create new strategies which will allow us to access the housing that we so desperately need for Housing First. Now, let me give you a little example of how we're working with Housing First in the UK. We have been implementing Housing First pilots since 2010. So we've had a good 6 years of trialling Housing First in a couple of different locations in the UK. Housing First officially now has serviced only 60 people in that 6-year period. So if you look at that in comparison to the people that I've housed via social property investment strategies, which is over 100, we can see that one of the crucial elements that we really need in order for us to be able to put housing first to a mass marketplace is we need a regular housing supply. So that is crucial. So that's what I'm working on now. I'm not looking at any more evidence of how great housing first is. And I've looked at enough evidence of that now over the last few years. And now I'm working so strongly to create a regular flowing supply of housing, which we can use to provide for housing first strategies, and we can reach vulnerable people and let them have housing as a priority. And we can keep in the forefront of our minds that housing first recognises homelessness is a housing crisis, and it's also a form of trauma. And so we should be looking to end and prevent that trauma as soon as possible. So we do that by giving housing. So we need to find the housing. We have 4.3 million homes privately rented in the UK, and we have over £5 billion a year spent on local housing allowance, which is privately rented benefits for, it's benefits for those who are on a low income that are living in privately rented homes. So we have opportunities to solve our homelessness crisis in the UK. We can become pioneers and leaders globally of how we address and how we reduce and ultimately how we eradicate homelessness in the UK. So we need to get behind housing first, we need to get behind social property investment, we need to keep ourselves educated, and we need to keep innovating and coming up with new solutions. Most importantly, we need to work together. These strategies, these dreams, these goals, nothing is going to be achieved without collaborative working and everybody putting something into the pot. So I'm striving forward to educate and empower others now, and I hope that you will come along to socialpropertyinvestment.co.uk to get involved in the movement, to become educated, informed, empowered, and to help us eradicate homelessness in the UK. So thanks for watching, and I will see you very soon.